Hey everyone, here's my review of Hakugei at Nagashima Spa Land in Japan. Hakugei opened in 2019, and it's an RMC hybrid coaster. It has a top speed of 67 miles per hour, a max drop of 180 feet, a chain lift, and 3 inversions. In this review, I'm going to go over the layout and theming and rate the ride out of 10 based on these 5 categories: intensity, ride smoothness, duration, fun factor, and inversions. So starting with the layout. As you dispatch from the station, you take a left turn that goes into a small drop. And following the drop are 4 consecutive airtime hills. The drop and hills both give weak ejector pops, but still manage to throw you around. It's a great way to start a roller coaster, and I think this is the best RMC pre-lift out there. Then you start up the 180-foot tall lift that gives you amazing views of the park, the ocean, and the nearby factories. Once you reach the top, there's a pre-drop consisting of a left turn and then a 180-foot drop at an 80-degree angle. In the front, the drop feels short, but in the back, it's awesome. Thanks to the pre-drop, you already have some speed going through the element, which just makes it so much crazier. In the back, you really get pulled down, which is why it's my favorite drop on any RMC. After that, there's a pretty forceful pullout where you hit your max speed of 67 miles per hour. It honestly surprised me how sustained the positives were during this moment. Next, there's a double up that gives very powerful airtime. I found that the first pop gave stronger negatives, but the second pop gave more sustained negatives. Nonetheless, both moments are great and are definitely some of the better elements of Hakugei. Then, following the double up is a right turn that leads into my favorite part of the coaster, the outer bank wave turn thingy. It's a really unique element where you sharply bank outwards at 90 degrees and get fun sideways airtime. It's as if Lightning Rod's second wave turn met Twisted Timbers' outer bank. This part of Hakugei is easily the standout for me. After that, there's another double down that feels a bit weaker than the first, but it still has great airtime. Next is the first of 3 inversions on Hakugei, and that's the 0G stall. It's a fun inversion that gives solid hang time, and I like how it's enclosed in the supports to make you sort of feel claustrophobic. However, it isn't my favorite inversion on the ride, but I'll get to that later. Then there are 2 wave turns that are both short but sweet and very enjoyable. Following those wave turns is the second inversion on the ride, with that being the first 0G roll and my favorite of the coaster. The reason why I think this is superior to the 0G stall is because the train really hauls through it. It feels different from the other RMC 0G rolls I've done because of the extra speed. It's definitely an underrated part of Hakugei. After that, there's a sustained camelback, which is good, and a left turn into an overbank. In my opinion, this is the worst part of the ride and a dud of an element. To finish off the roller coaster, there's another airtime hill, a Stengel dive type maneuver, an average RMC 0G roll, and 2 hills that lead into the brakes. There isn't much to say about the final elements other than their solid and typical RMC goodness. So now, let's go over the theme. I'm not 100% sure what the theme of Hakugei is, but the name Hakugei means white whale in Japanese, and the ride is right next to the ocean. So I'm guessing that the roller coaster has something to do with the ocean. The trains have a helm on the front, which leads me to think we're trying to catch the white whale, and the coaster is us trying to get it. But that's just my guess, so if you have any other ideas on what the theme is, then comment down below. I'd also like to point out how beautiful Hakugei is. The bright blue track contrasts the pale white supports very well, and it's one of my favorite color schemes on a coaster. Moving on to the part of the review where I rate the ride out of 10 based on 5 categories, starting with intensity. When I think of Hakugei, I think of a very fun and enjoyable roller coaster, but not necessarily intense. Don't get me wrong, it has intense elements and powerful airtime, but after the first 0G roll, the coaster noticeably takes it down a notch. But because the first half is intense and thrilling, I'm giving Hakugei a 7 out of 10 for intensity. Next up, ride smoothness. At the time of when I rode, Hakugei was only about 2.5 years old, so because of that, and that it's RMC, the ride was extremely smooth and comfortable. So I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 for ride smoothness. No further explanation needed. Now for the third category, duration. Hakugei is one of the longest RMCs at 5,020 feet, so naturally, it's a long ride and one that I thought had a very satisfying length. On the brake run, I didn't feel like it needed any more elements, but I did think the last stretch of track was a bit drawn out. So part of me thinks Hakugei could have benefited with 1 or 2 fewer elements, but nonetheless, I'm still giving it a 9 out of 10. The next category is fun factor, and surprisingly, this RMC creation is fun. Hakugei is filled with great inversions, airtime, and pacing. It's an awesome coaster to marathon, and I genuinely think anybody who rides Hakugei will get off with a smile. So Hakugei is getting a 9 out of 10 for fun factor. Now for the final category, inversions. And this is the first time I've ever used the category in a review, so I'll quickly explain what it is. As the name suggests, it's about inversions. I'll be rating them for how unique and amazing they are, not just quantity. So now that that's out of the way, I'm giving Hakugei a 7 out of 10 for inversions. The inversions on Hakugei are exciting, but they only get a 7 because you can find them on other coasters by RMC and other manufacturers. So for Hakugei's final score, it gets an 8.4 out of 10. In my opinion, it's a top-tier RMC with plenty of airtime, laterals, and some positives. It fits in well with the lineup, and it's such a spectacle to look at. There's not much to complain about with Hakugei, other than some slow final elements. Hakugei is currently my number 3 overall, and I prefer riding in the front for the better visuals and sharper airtime, but the back is still great for the drop. So that's going to wrap up my review of Hakugei at Nagashima Spa Land. If you liked this review, then please leave a like and consider subscribing for more theme park content. Thanks for watching to the end, and have a good day.